Well, good evening, everyone. Meteorologist Michael Wilhite here, wilhitewx.com. I want to bring you an update here on the potential for some wintry weather coming up this weekend. The data is certainly increasing the snow threat potential for the Ohio Valley here in the modeling over the past couple of days, and so I want to sort of dive right on into this. First off, the Weather Prediction Center does have us in a chance for about 2.5 inches or more of snowfall. That's what this probability of exceeding 1/4 inch of liquid equivalent of snow, that would be at a 10-to-1 standard ratio, 2.5 inches basically. So they've got us in at least the 10 to 30% chance here on Friday night, and then it overtakes a good chunk of the area here on Saturday and Saturday night as well. So nothing real significant yet on their chances. I think that's going to rise given the latest data. Now, I will say a word of caution. Our storm is not on shore yet. It is not in the upper air network. So the modeling is going to go back and forth for the next little while until this gets on shore. But you notice this area of low pressure out here. This is remember, they winds rotate counterclockwise around a low pressure. And it's this little area of pieces of energy right out here on the southern edge, if you will, of this low that's going to be spun out and shot onto the East Coast, and that happens on Thursday morning, Wednesday night into Thursday morning, and after that gets into the coast, our upper air network will be able to sample it. Basically, the models ingest data that's air balloons are sent up into the atmosphere, and they have electronic recording devices on them, and we take pressure readings and all kinds of good data that we need, and the models are initialized off of that. Well, we don't have those air balloons released out into the ocean. You have to get on shore for that. We have some buoy data out here, but that's surface data, not upper air data. So right now, we just don't have a whole lot of data on this storm in the modeling, and so I think there will be some changes as we go forward, some waffling back and forth until we start to get some better data with that. And then, of course, that will affect us for the weekend. So all that to say here, do look for the modeling to get better. But probably Thursday we'll be able to start fine-tuning a little bit more of those details. Now, that said, here's what the modeling is saying, and it looks right now like the rain and snow line is going to set up sort of right here in the Ohio Valley. The GFS version, this is late Friday night into early Saturday morning. You go into Saturday morning, and you notice there's that rain-snow line right over here into Kentucky, possibly some hints of some mixes in with this. And notice as the low develops down here, it's not an incredibly potent low. But what you've got going on with this, remember, again, lows rotate counterclockwise, so warm air is being pumped up from the Gulf of Mexico. So that does two things. Well, if you want a significant winter storm out of it, you need that warmer air to be pumped up north, because that's going to have the moisture with it. And warmer air can hold more moisture, and so the moisture comes back with that. Colder air is usually drier, doesn't hold as much moisture. So you need that south flow to sort of pump up that moisture if you want beefier snow totals. At the same time, you don't want it to be so warm that it toasts you in the atmosphere and you end up with 33 degrees and rain instead of snow, for example. And right now, the modeling suggests, that rain snow line here is just sort of right in the area. Unfortunately, I think that's something somewhere in our region that we're going to have to fight. Now, that might be over southern Indiana, that might be over Kentucky, that might waffle back and forth at times during this. Right now, there's just no way to know, but I'm pretty confident that it's going to be in our region. And you can see this sort of starts to wind down. The GFS doesn't wind it down until Sunday afternoon. So it's a pretty significant little event here on the GFS. The Canadian, in very similar fashion with this, you see the rain snow line, very similar right here in the region for us as well. And then here Sunday afternoon, it's starting to wind down a little bit here too. So small differences in timing on the modelings, but overall the same general idea. Even the Euro is suggesting a very similar idea. The Euro actually starts it here just a little bit earlier than the others, but not by much. Here we are Friday night into Saturday morning, and you go through, but notice that the Euro is the coldest of all of those models, and the rain snow line stays in southern Kentucky, and all of southern Indiana and southern Illinois really stays within the snow zone out of this. And, If you're down, say, Bowling Green, Paducah, London, then you may have more of a chance of being on that rain snow line with the Euro. So there is some slight disagreements with this. Now, what kinds of snows would they produce? Well, different results because of the different models. And so for the GFS, we were talking that rain snow line being pushed a little further north. You've got some beefier snow totals because of that moist air being pumped in, but it's mostly a southern Indiana, southern Illinois event for us here in the Ohio Valley, into Ohio as well. Eastern Kentucky cashes in on some nice totals, but you notice southern Kentucky very much left out of this on the GFS. And you can notice that this is some pretty decent totals. We're talking a good swath of about 3 to 5 inches across a good chunk of Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio as you go into here. Canadian is in a very similar idea on its placement. You notice the totals are a little bit less on this. It's more on the order of a 1 to 3 inch snow event over a good chunk of the area. Both of these, you notice that Missouri back here is really the snow jackpot out of this, just off to our west. The Euro is the coldest of the models, and it has the snows a little bit further to the south. And so what you see is that you do have some pretty hefty snow totals on this, and you still have the 3 to 5 inch band somewhere, but it's more along the Ohio River and south of the Ohio River than it is and towards the north. So there's still some disagreements on placements. Right now, other than just showing you the accumulation possibilities, I can't give you any specific totals as yet. All I can tell you, the modeling suggests that there could be some decent-sized snow totals out of this, but whenever you see data that this far off in the placement, it's just not possible to be able to get a placement on this yet. And in a couple of days, maybe we'll be able to fine-tune that a little bit more. Ensemble data, by the way, is very strong in agreement with this. If you look at the GFS ensembles, you notice, remember an ensemble member, an ensemble model is basically taking multiple different runs of the same model and just tweaking the initial conditions enough to account for the fact that we don't have the atmosphere perfectly modeled. Then runs it again. And then you take all those different ensemble members, 20 here in the case of the GFS ensembles, and then you average it together. And so if you take a look, take all of these members and average them together, you still get a reasonable snow accumulation across the area, and you can kind of see the placement that the GFS ensembles. But really what I wanted to show you on this is that out of all 20 of those ensembles, really you've only got just basically about 2 here that don't show much of anything for us. So that's saying 18 out of the 20 individual ensemble members are going for some snow, and some of these, well, that's right here is a heavy snow out of this. That's a pretty heavy snow. There's another heavy snow. There's a heavy snow out of that. Decent snow totals there. Decent snows here. You get the idea. Some of these just have some pretty hefty snow totals for us, while some of them are a little bit lighter. And again, you can expect that this far out, but all that to say, whenever you've got this kind of good agreement, confidence in the forecast certainly goes up a little bit. So right now, as far as that is concerned, I would say that areas that I've shaded here in blue really have the best chance, if you will. If I can ever get this to go right on my screen, I'll make it a little bigger here for you so that you can see it. Areas here in blue, I think, really have the best chance of accumulating snow. So got some highlights over to the side that you can read. Again, that rain snow line sort of sets up somewhere over southern Indiana or Kentucky. Right now, my best guess is more over towards Kentucky. Anywhere south of I-64 in Kentucky, I think you're at a risk for that. Western Kentucky Parkway and southward, maybe somewhere in that general neighborhood. I do think that could come north into Indiana. That's a real possibility. We're going to have to watch it just somewhere in this region. But I think the areas in the blue stand the best chance of accumulation. And again, with that, I think some 3 to 5 inch snows are on the table with this. And it's just too early to know exactly where those might go. And again, this starts late Friday night and it winds down sometime early on Sunday. Now, the good thing that's going in our favor this time is that we have high pressure to our north that's already going to be bringing some cold air in. And so the next few days, it was nice today. We hit into the 60s this afternoon across the area, but we're going into the 30s the rest of the week. So the ground's already going to be cold for this, and we're already going to have cold air to work with by the time the precipitation comes in, thanks to that high pressure to our north. It's not too strong of a high pressure that it's going to suppress it way to our south, but it's high pressure enough that it's going to funnel in some cold air for us. And so this is probably the best chance that we have had, well, really in a couple of months here, really since that, since the November snow. This is probably the best chance that we have had in the region for that. Now, the question is, how do we go from here? Well, if you look at the GFS ensembles, they're confused right now. And so we stay cold this week. Stay cold through the weekend, maybe a small warm up and then back down to the cold possibly after that. But if I just sort of show you this, look at what the GFS ensembles did one run earlier, and they were just cold all the way through the period. And so this was the 12Z run this morning. This was the run this afternoon that I'm showing you. Notice the differences. Yes, I know the scale is off because you've got the 56 high that was forecasting today that's not on this afternoon run. So the scales are a little off. Just look at the numbers. But you get the idea here is that the other one kept us in the 30s all the way through the period, whereas we've got some mid 40s showing up. So and if you actually take a look at the EPS data, the Euro ensemble data, well, it's a little bit warmer than what the GFS data is here too. So there's still some questions in the long term. Can we see some sustained cold or not? I'm not seeing anything significant in bitter, ridiculous cold out of this. And so as you look at this data too, if we're getting snow, for example, here on Saturday, Sunday, but you're warming back up into the 40s the next week, that snow is not going to stick around, which I know is important to some people as well. Now, if we lay down a good snowpack, it's very possible that these highs, at least initially on here, could certainly go down a little bit more than they are now, but that will just remain to be seen. That's where we stand at right now, folks. Again, a chance of accumulating snow this weekend. Could be some decent amounts, but I also want to caution you and say that, we're still 4 days away from this coming on. And so whenever you're this far out, there's still a chance that this could be a swing and a miss. Snow lovers, this is the best chance that we have had in a couple of months at some accumulating snow. So that's a good thing for you. But again, let's not get our hopes up too much yet and get specific on totals. Right now, it's just in the possible category. Got a good 50-50 shot at this. The chances, I believe, are increasing each day as we get closer. So hang in there, snow lovers. Looks like your luck may be starting to change. That's it for now, folks. I'm meteorologist Michael Wilhite, WilhiteWX.com. Be sure to follow me on Facebook. You can follow me, Southern Indiana Weather, on Facebook. Be sure to follow me on Twitter as well, at WilhiteWX. I post most frequently here on Twitter, just because Facebook limits my reach on the amount of people that I can reach with it because of theirs. Twitter does not. But if you are on either of those social media channels, be sure to follow me for some more frequent updates as we encounter.